Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into a deeply personal, surprisingly tense, and honestly just fascinating look at a very specific cultural nuance. And to really get a grip on it, we're not starting in a textbook or some history lecture. No, we're starting somewhere much more relatable: a rainy Japanese commuter train. So, picture this. It's a damp, gloomy morning in Japan. You're on a packed commuter train. Standing right in front of a seated passenger is someone completely glued to their phone, just endlessly scrolling, and hooked over their arm is a soaking wet umbrella. Now, with every single sway of the train, the tip of that dripping umbrella creeps closer and closer and closer to the seated passenger's knees. We're talking literally inches away from a cold, wet disaster ruining their morning commute. You can practically feel the tension building, right? So what would you do? Now, in a lot of cultures, the knee-jerk reaction would just be a quick, "Whoa, hey, excuse me, watch the umbrella," right? But the seated passenger in our source author's observation, they didn't say a single word out loud. Not one. Instead, they just quietly shifted their own umbrella to form this subtle little physical barrier and gently tapped the tip of the standing person's wet umbrella with their own. Just a soft tonk-tonk. And you know what? It was a completely silent message, but it broadcasted loud and clear. Please notice what's happening here. Section 1. The silent please notice. Now, from an outside perspective, choosing to tap an umbrella instead of just speaking up might seem, well, kind of like taking the long way around a really simple problem. But the author notes something absolutely crucial here. This is not passive-aggressive. It's really not rude at all. It's actually a highly gentle, deeply considerate way to avoid putting someone else on the spot or making them feel publicly embarrassed. If you're ever traveling in Japan and you notice someone sort of glancing at you or keeping their eyes pointed in your direction, it's almost never out of mean-spirited judgment. It's way more likely they're just quietly waiting for you to read the room and catch onto the situation yourself. Basically, they want you to quietly fix the problem so everybody can just move on without making a scene. Section 2. The Kansai Airport Dilemma. Okay, so the umbrella tap is a great one-on-one example. But what happens when this exact same cultural instinct plays out with dozens of people all at once? Well, we can actually see this logistical trap waiting for international travelers every single day on the trains heading to Kansai Airport. Picture an 8-car train pulling in. But here's the catch. It splits. The front 4 cars go to the airport, while the back 4 cars break off and head in a totally different direction toward Wakayama. And because the platform near the back just naturally tends to be closer and easier to get to, you get all these tired tourists lugging heavy bags piling right into those back 4 cars. The wrong cars. Now, there is a brief station announcement, but as the author points out, a lot of visitors only realize their massive mistake once the door is shut and the train is already moving. You can imagine the instant panic on their faces. And this is where it gets really fascinating. The Japanese locals sitting right next to them, they almost never step in to explain. But actually, scratch that initial judgment you might have, we need to shift our empathy here. They aren't staying silent out of coldness or because they don't care. They're actually sitting there in a state of quiet, nervous worry. They're glancing over, agonizing internally, thinking, oh no, have they realized yet? Are they going to figure it out? Section 3. The root of silence. So why on earth stay silent while someone is clearly about to miss their flight? Well, it all boils down to this one specific concept: sashite hoshi. It's this deep-seated cultural wish for someone to just read the room and sense the situation without needing explicit step-by-step instructions. In the train scenario, there's also this underlying assumption that, hey, the authority figures, like the railway company, they know about this, they'll fix it eventually. Add that cultural default to the already massive hurdle of striking up a conversation with a total stranger in a confined space, and you get a train car packed full of worried, silent people, all just hoping the tourists will magically figure it out on their own. But, before we write this off as some totally alien concept, the author makes a great point. This instinct is actually pretty universal. I mean, think about Western films where someone loudly clears their throat to get attention, or to signal that someone just said something super inappropriate, right? Whether it's a passive-aggressive throat clear in a Hollywood movie or the gentle tuk-tuk of a wet umbrella in Tokyo, they both stem from the exact same root desire. It's that intense, almost desperate urge to communicate a message without actually having to use your words. Section 4. The inner tug-of-war. Let's really get into the mental tug-of-war happening inside the mind of a local passenger here. Why is it so incredibly hard to just lean over and say, hey, you're on the wrong train? It's because their brain is firing off a rapid-fire series of anxieties. First off, what if they're wrong? What if that tourist actually wants to go to Wakayama? Second, pointing out a mistake inherently puts the speaker on the correct side, which in this culture feels incredibly presumptuous and just uneasy. And finally, there's this genuine hospitable fear that bluntly correcting a foreign visitor might offend them or embarrass them so much that it makes them dislike Japan altogether. This internal conflict, it perfectly captures the paralysis that sets in. The author sums it up beautifully, writing, "The wish to be noticed and the wish to actually communicate keep pulling against each other inside me. They know that, hey, with more international visitors arriving than ever before, maybe things just need to be said plainly now." And yet, that deep-seated fear of stepping out of bounds, of being the one person to disrupt the social harmony by speaking up, it literally keeps them frozen in their seat until it's their stop to get off the train.
Section 5. Speak up or wait.
So what's the actual fallout when everyone collectively chooses to just wait for someone else to notice? The author arrives at a pretty sobering realization here. While staying silent absolutely avoids immediate conflict and keeps that nice, gentle surface harmony intact, it also guarantees that the problems persist forever. People are going to continue to get nudged by wet umbrellas on their morning commute. Confused tourists are going to keep ending up in Wakayama instead of catching their flights. Because if everyone is just waiting for someone else to read the room never actually changes. Which leaves us with a truly fascinating mirror to hold up to our own lives. We all have our own communication defaults, right? So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this question. Are you someone who would rather be told directly when you're making a mistake, even if it stings a little bit in the moment? Or are you someone who deeply wishes people would just give you a subtle hint, a quiet tap, and leave you to notice it all on your own? Think about it. It might just change the way you read the room tomorrow.